Welcome to Wake, a cold reading of James Joyce's Finnegans Wake, just to hear it out loud. Join Toby Malone and TJ Young, along with some special friends, as we puzzle our way through what we once thought was an unreadable book to produce a surprisingly listenable podcast. It is Wednesday, December 4th, 2024. It has been 196 days since we've started reading, with 516 pages complete of 628, meaning we have 112 pages left to go, and are 82.17% of the way through Finnegans Wake. Welcome to episode 33 of Wake, the podcast that disarms, whether it's today, tonight, or 1979, and which, despite all its rage, is still just a rat in a cage, as we fulfill a long-held bucket list item, reading James Joyce's Finnegans Wake out loud just once. I'm your host, Toby Malone, joined as ever by a man with the most impeccable taste in music, TJ Young. Hi, TJ.
Oh, hi, Toby. Since I have impeccable taste in music, I'm going to say a hot take that I've already told you. The fact that Sarah Bareilles has less awards, Grammys, than Taylor Swift is infuriating, but, you know.
Well, Sarah's just trying to do different things to Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift's trying to print money, and Sarah's trying to, create art. So, I mean, there's the hot take from this end of the room. Yeah, and you're always sending me nice, obscure things, interesting things that you think, oh, well, here's a track, and it's usually the lyrics are fun, or it's making you emotional, or it's got a bass line in there that you think Cormac would
like.
It's
the bass lines, right? I'm just like, this dude is just walking all over the boards, and I love it.
Yeah. And then I thought that the Smashing Pumpkins, if you missed it, listeners, track back 30 seconds and listen to my heavy-handed levering in of Smashing Pumpkins song titles. Mm-hmm. I thought that was appropriate since this song, at all because of rights, but that is Speak to Me in a Language I Can Hear is the first lyric in the song 33. And this is episode 33. That is a classic featured on the most formative and enduring album of my teenage years, Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, which is an album that James Joyce would have loved. CJ, is this something that you're familiar with, Melancholy?
100%. I think that my album, and this is going to sound super weird, Matchbox 20's More Than You Think You Are, that album got me through it in high school.
Fair enough. We all hit at different times. Yeah, I just happened to be at high school in 1995, so Melancholy came out and it changed the whole world. And what it was, the thing I love about Melancholy, just as we start to get into Joyce, is that the Smashing Pumpkins found commercial success, and then they went, watch this, and they released an experimental double album that features some of the most incredible music of the 90s, but also some really interesting stuff. They're really flipping the finger to the idea of what is commercial.
I love it when bands do that and artists do that. And,
yeah.
Ray LaMontagne, he did that recently. His last couple albums, I've just been like, bruh's just on a journey. Yeah. Same thing with Incubus. Prolift of a Murder is not great, but I was like, they're trying some stuff out, which I really appreciate.
Yeah. Well, and for me, Vitalogy, Pearl Jam's Vitalogy, which is their third album, which is, they did 10, and then they did Verses, and they were very commercially successful. And then Pearl Jam said, what about this one? And so still some radio hits, but then they also have songs on there like, hey, Foxy Mop Handle Mama, that's me. And Bugs.
Yeah. Yes.
So yes, I love it when they take a turn, because I feel as though they're doing what Joyce is doing, which is saying, I'm popular and I could pander, but I will not, because we never pander here.
You know what's funny? I think we often talk about the novelist who couldn't start with the Finnegans Wake and would have to work up to it, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot of musical acts that operate in the reverse. Switchfoot's first album, I know, it is called Legend of the Chin. It's like this concept album about a boy in high school who eventually unalives himself, but it's so strange and it makes no sense. And then they're like, I guess I'll write the song for Walk to Remember. Oh, this is what we should do.
Yeah.
I'm like, go back to the weird stuff, like Mars Volta. Give me some more of that stuff.
Yeah, there's always a place for it. I was talking to a mutual friend of ours last night about dramaturgy and about playwriting in general, and about the fact that there's this mania in the theatre these days to sand off all of the rough edges and make everything commercially easy. And I love the fact that there are works out there that have still got those rough edges, because that's kind of fun. I mean, there's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in, right?
Mm-hmm.
To butcher Leonard Cohen, but it's absolutely what this book is all about. And I feel as though Joyce probably would have loved what the Smashing Pumpkins did with Melancholy as they shifted away from Siamese Dream, and I'm also pretty sure that Billy Corgan has read James Joyce. If I had to guess, I would say he's the most pretentious man on the face of the earth. I do love him. He has a podcast where he goes through track by track of his new concept album called Atom, and it's bananas. It's crazy. It's a crazy journey, but I strongly recommend it. I will also say that completely accidentally, we're at episode 33, which is why I played 33, but we're also reading book 3, chapter 3, and this is our third part.
No, you planned that. Don't lie.
No, for real. 33, which is some spooky stuff right there. So, what do you? I mean, do you put any stock in numerology? Is this?
Ooh, stock is a hard. I mean, I notice things when. I mean, I'm going to get married on a palindrome next year, so it's not like
there you go. Yeah,
it's not like numbers don't feel important to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know the significance of the number 3 repeated 17 times.
Well, 33 itself is the master number.
Ooh.
In numerology, yes. It's considered the master teacher and the most spiritually evolved of all numbers. It combines the 11 and the 22, which boosts their potential to another level. When expressed to the fullest, the 33 lacks personal ambition and instead focuses its considerable ability on the spiritual uplifting of humanity. What makes the 33 especially impressive is its high level of sincere devotion, and it is very rare in full force. So apparently... This is from again probably the first numerology website that came up in the search about, but I'll put this into the show notes so you can get there with all the woo woo that numerology brings us.
All the woo woo.
I mean, beyond numerology, do you have a favorite number? Do you have a number you always go to?
Oh, 29. My birthday.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm like, it only comes up once every 4 years in February.
That's true, right?
And so I'm like, it's special to me.
Yeah, I was always number 8, but that was because that was the number of my favorite rugby league player when I was a kid, and so I always loved number 8. My son, his favorite number for some reason is 74, and that's the number he puts on his baseball jersey whenever he gets to pick his number. And last night we were talking about it, and it's lost to the mists of time as to why 74 is important to him. Because I remember when he picked it when he was maybe 9 or 10, and he explained it very clearly, and I thought, oh, that makes sense. And now neither of us can remember why 74 is important. So,
but it is,
and that's his Instagram handle has 74 in it, and he's just
oh yeah, I saw that. I was like, you went.
It's like a fake ID. I was born in 1974, my good man. Speaking of numbers as well, somehow. You are listening to the number 6 drama podcast in Ireland.
Throw us away. Just throw the whole thing away.
So welcome to our drama listeners in Ireland. For some reason, like there's a few aggregator sites that sort of put together information on podcasts and all the reviews in one place. And so somehow Wake has made it up there. So it's on Rephonic, which collects all the reviews in one place. So welcome, Ireland. We're also charting in places like Germany and
Hallo Deutschland.
Number 248 in New Zealand. So so welcome to my Kiwi friends. Glad to have you here.
All 2 of them who are listening.
That's it, because I mean, how many podcasts are listened to in New Zealand? I don't know. But very glad to have you all here. I interrupted you earlier, and I'm not sure if you.
Oh, it was something about numbers. It is high. Oh, apparently the number 87 has become comedy in my head, and so whenever I have to put a percentage in my scripts, I just type 87% because it's oddly specific and isn't an A.
But then everyone in Pittsburgh just assumes that this is a Sidney Crosby reference. So
Yeah, everybody, and I'm just like, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's a funny number. It's just it's like an A, but not quite an A plus.
And the fact that you like can say 87%, it's like the hell, like
Yeah, like just round it up.
yeah.
This episode is also scheduled to come out on Christmas Eve, so Merry Christmas to everyone who's listening. I'm sure that you're gathering the family around the podcast app and playing
Yes,
Wake.
huddle around the Bluetooth speaker with your with your eggnog and your Guinness, and let us lull you into a sense of insanity as we say words that we don't know what they mean.
Absolutely. After all, we are the 248th ranked podcast in New Zealand in a certain genre. So when you narrow it down like that, it sounds
caveat just gets
very, yes, only podcast listened to on a Wednesday when the light's on.
And in English, in a word stumbling mouths from a book that many find unapproachable.
Yeah. Well, we're still we'll take it, and we love all of our listeners.
I take all my W's.
Exactly. One thing I wanted to say was that we got a message from our friend Sarah Kane, who appeared on last week's podcast, and Sarah wrote to me to thank me and to say thank you so much for giving me the bravery to take on Wake, because she'd always assumed that Wake was just for the purists, and so she had never approached one of the Finnegans Wake reading groups before, because she felt that it was too hard for her. And I'm very pleased to say that, emboldened by appearing on Wake last week, she attended a reading at Sweeney's Pharmacy, and it was filmed as part of a documentary. So she's going to be there. So there's footage on her Instagram of her singing along to Finnegans Wake, the Finnegans Wake ballad or drinking tune. And she placed a note in her edition that said, "This is the edition that was used to read on an episode of Wake that it's coming out on," and so
that's fantastic.
Used it as some viral marketing there, in amongst the other Joyceans. So thank you, Sarah, for getting the word out about us, and we are thrilled that this podcast could go a little way into helping someone realize that you don't need to be a purist to enjoy this work, because you really don't. I mean, you can just listen and enjoy.
I'm so glad. That makes me so happy.
Yeah.
If anything, as we're coming near the end, as we, if we stop now, we'd get a B. But no, as we're coming near the end of this process, I think, and this is going to sound super sappy, the book is great, but it's the friends we made along the way. but like legitimately, right? It is this, it's the same reason why, theater is important to me. It's the same reason why, even if you talk about music in a room full of people, I think it's really special. Why reading groups exist is the fact that you're like, oh, I'm connecting with someone in a way that I wouldn't before, someone that I have no other reason to interact with, and now I'm like, there's a memory there, and they might say a thing that I say, or I might take a part of what they left behind, and like I think that is really kind of special, and that's the thing I'm gonna miss, not most, because getting to talk to you consistently is always great.
We'll just make another one. I'm not going to read a book, but let's just do another podcast.
Hey, if you notice, talk to me about music. I'll go off, but
yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
The last thing the world needs is two men with a microphone talking about music written by women. So
at least we're not both white. I mean, that's something.
Very true.
That helps. Very
true.
But I'm really enjoying it, and I get a little bit of separation anxiety for the idea of finishing this, but at the same time, I'm excited to put a bow on it and to be able to say we did that, and it's there and it's out in the world, and if people are able to hear it and go, oh, Finnegans Wake is kind of hard, but funny at times, or interesting at times, or it tells different kinds of stories. You can dip in and out of it. That's the point.
And I've decided that my job in this whole, it's only taken me 33 episodes. I've decided my whole job in this is to show that, like, you can do hard things even if you stumble and trip and fall and don't
Yeah,
understand what's happening. You can still do hard things.
100%. And I feel as though we're both much better readers than we were 6 months ago.
God, yes.
You know, I think we've both managed to shake off the rust of, from back at theatre school, you learn how to cold read, or you get better at that, but it takes some practice. So being able to get back into it, to get to the point now where I listen and go, oh, it's not a complete disaster. We're not stumbling all the time. We stumble a bit, but we don't always fall. Yeah. The last thing I wanted to mention is that Wake is also on Blue Sky now. We have an account on Blue Sky, so look for us over there at wakepod.bsky.social. And so we wanted to just support that new platform. TJ is also over there. We don't have Wake has never had an account on that other platform, the old Blackbird platform. Although I did have one for the book that I wrote with Eiley, which we used to promote the book. But because that is mostly dormant, I closed that account because I didn't want to support that platform, and felt as though Blue Sky was the way. And interestingly, there is a really interesting Finnegans Wake and James Joyce community on Blue Sky. Lots of people posting over there. And one of the first accounts I came up with was a Japanese translation and reading group for Finnegans Wake.
That's awesome.
Which is amazing. Which is the idea of Finnegans Wake in Japanese is...
I just don't understand. Like, the idea of translating this book, which, we talked about a little bit last week, is like I don't understand. It's one of those things that, like, my brain just says, nope, this is not for you to get.
Yeah. It's amazing. And the best part is that the entire, like, there's no Western characters on this page. It's not one of those ones where it's saying, it's giving it to you in English and then sort of with a little bit of Japanese. This is for Japanese readers, the end. And it's completely impenetrable if you weren't familiar with the work. And so,
right.
I guess maybe it's a podcast. I'm looking at they've got some videos and things like that, but because I don't speak Japanese, I can't get in. But it's really fun. So that is there, and I'll link to that on the show notes as well. We also got a bump for followers from Michael Ian Black, who is our patron saint of Wake, who he has his obscure podcast, which inspired this one, and then he's been very kind. And when we started up on Blue Sky, I tagged Michael Ian Black, and he reposted and gave us his support. So we love Michael. So that's been nice.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael. So we're going back to talking a little bit about Yawn and what he's doing. He's the seance that we started off last week, and the thing we didn't bring up last week is that Yawn is very close to a Pennsylvania word.
John.
Which, do you want to talk a little bit about what a Jawn is?
It's like that thing over there. So I'm like, grab me that John over there. Grab me. It's a filler word for a noun that I do not want to describe right now, or I'm trying to talk too fast. Like, oh yeah, no, it's in that John. It's in the John.
Doesn't that feel Joycean to you?
Yeah.
Yes. Joyce basically being like, I don't want to. I'm just going to make up a word that covers another thing in
it's just like thingamabob in general. It's like, I use the word thingamabob.
Yeah, and then what? Yins is the other one.
Oh
right?
My God, I can't stand that word. If you ever hear me say Yins, it is 100% ironically and for comedic effect.
Right.
But it's supposed to be like you.
It's the Pittsburgh version of y'all, right?
Y'all, yeah. I'm just like, can't do it. And it's everywhere. When I first moved here, I was like, what is this word? And it's I was working on an audio thing that never panned out, not because we realized it's going to be really expensive to produce. And we were writing all these different words that would have changed and passed down because it's set in the future and it's like a space opera, right? And I said the word yins, and the writer's room was like, if you ever say that word in here again. They're like, hell no. And I was like,
right.
Word.
So the anti-Yinzers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Pittsburghers are called Yinzers a lot of times.
Do you find that native Pittsburghers are proud Yinzers or resist the
Oh,
Yinzers?
so proud Yinzers. Oh my
Uh,
God, they would be like, "I'm a Yinzer," and you're
so
like,
I wasn't. It was
"Great."
not like the outsiders have adopted it and the locals hate it. It's the other way around.
Yeah, if your family grew up in Pittsburgh, lived
Right.
here, if you have made a home, you could go back through. You are a Yinzer through and through. And they play on the like downtown is used downtown, and so like there's a
Mm.
donut truck called Downtown Donuts, and so like, it's playing with that sort of way in the same way that Joyce does.
Right. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
written so that way you force the pronunciation.
Right. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, that's very much what we're dealing with in Finnegans Wake. So why not get into it? Let's get back
Let's
to
do
the
it.
reading. So as always, we are reading from the Penguin Modern Classics edition of Finnegans Wake, published in 2000 with a foreword by Seamus Dean. Today we'll be reading the third part of chapter 3.3 from pages 516 to 532 in this edition. This continues the segment with the detailed title of Yawn, an inquiry run as a seance by Senators Four into the various events so far narrated, especially the Humphrey out of Book One. Sean, now Yawn, is the star witness, ventriloquizing or channeling the characters who appear one by one, with HCE as a philanthropic urban planner dominating the last 20 pages. And that's the description by the Oxford World's Classic Edition of 2012, which also includes brief summaries of what is happening in each subsection, which we will address at the end of the reading. And now, without further ado, Finnegans Wake.
Faith in Mr. Cherryman. First he come up, a gag as a gig, Badglers rake of the town's major from a Wes mix smash all swiggy of the Cadillacs. Got up regardless, with a cock and the Kendale side of the tattle soul, and the Riddler Neeks, ragamufflers, and the horrid contrivances as seen above, whistling into a bone tolerably delicately, the wearing of the blue, and taking of his plush wadded Bugsby in the perusal flea in the loisy manner, saying good Morix and Weevely Bolly, and dragging his feet in the usual course, and was ever so terribly nice, really, telling him clean his naggles and fix himself up, miles and so on and so forth. And to take the comb and the grizzlies and who done that foxy freak on his bear's hair like fire bursting out of his umpire, and have hanged me, sir, if he wasn't wanting his calicub body back before he to take his life or so save his life. Then, begore, counting as many as 11 and 32 seconds with his pocket browning, like I said, Juan, Swan, Swan, this is my authority. He kept for cursing Haskup's foul Faden, Kogan, for Kukukori, the key of John Donne's field for it was for sent and the way Montague and was robbed and wolfing to know all that went off and who burned the hay. Perchance wilt thou say, before he'd kill all the all the K's and the price of Purcell's fake totem, which the man, his plantagonist, up from the bog of the depths, who was raging with the thirst of the sacred sponge, and who was a master of past, was so far as him was concerned, was only standing three nonplus to the corner of Turbot Street, perplexing about a pomp shop and poppering to spit, wanting to know, whelp, the hen conventions, compass, Memphis he wanted, with him knew nothing about.
A Sazencruxer like the Napa, Farrell, Patter, Tandy, Moore, and Burgess medley? In other words, was that how, in the unusual curse of things, as complement to complement, though, after a manner of men, which I must and will say seems extraordinary, their follicular, subtler, angelic warfare or photoplay finished started? Truly, that or I may never. Did one scum then in the aura drama, the deaf after some clever play in the mud, mention to the other undesirable, a dumb during diverse intentional instance, that upon the resume of the Angerus, how for his deal he was a pig-headed Swede, and to wend himself to a Medicis? To be sore he did, the Huguenot. Only it was turnip-hudded dunce, I beg your pardon, and he would jokes bold LeBeau, the beholder, with his black masket off the bowling green. Sublime was the warning. The author, in fact, was murdered. Did he, the first spokesman, do anything to him? The last spokesman, when, after heaving some more smut and chaff between them, they rolled to gutter into the ditch together? Black Pig's Dyke? No, he had his teeth in the back of his head. Did Box then try to shine his puss? No, but Cox did to shin the pun man. The worsted crying that if never he looked on Lever Holmers again, and the bester hewing that he might ever save sun life? Truly, truly, as best as he ever, and so was I never. That forte Carlyle touch breaking the Camp Den piano back. Patch! Are you of my meaning that would be going on to about half noon, click a clock, pip Emma, Grinwicker time by your quirk quadrant? You will be asking me, and I wish to Higgins you wouldn't, would it? Let it be 12:30 after a summer sotch of the tardest. And it was 11:32 before in so-and-such rely on it. Tick up on time. How day you doom? That rising day sinks rosing in a night of 9 weeks' wonder. Amtees, Marcy Buckup, the uneven day of the 11th month of the unevented year. A Martin Mass. A triduum before our Larry's own day. By which of your chronos, my man of four watches, larboard, starboard, dog or dath? Done sink, rugby, ballast and ball, you can imagine. Language this all's fair, for the loaf of Mars is ambivalent about it. Will you swear all the same you saw their shadows 100 foot later, struggling diabolically over this, that, and the other, their virtues pro and his principality con, near the ruins, Drogheda Street, and kicking up the devil's own dust for the Milesian wind? I will, I did, they were, I swear, like the heavenly militia. So reek me, gully gully, with my tongue through my toe cap on the headlong stone of kismet, if so, 'tis the will of who's be done. Weepin' Lorkins, they must have put in some wonderful work, he cad, on the quiet like during this arms parley. Meteorities forces vegetarians. Dost thou not think so? Aye. The illegal-looking range or fender, alias turfing iron, a product of Hostages & Co., engineers, changed feet several times as Briars revalved during the weapon swap. Piff! Puff! Excuse yourself. It was an ersatz lothering can. They did not know the war was over and were only berespelling or bereppling one another by chance or necessity with sham bottles, mere and whiny as betwixt picture shirts and scuddicules, like their caricatures in an Irish rumen to sorrow-brate the expulsion of the Danos. What sayest thou, Scusa Scumerol? That's all, for he was heavily upright man, limber Romina in buculus tuxata, faith-farsing gutterish. I mean the Morgans and the Dorans in Finnish. I know you don't in Feenies. The music of the future on the Barbarihams of the Bashed. Co Kennelly? Da Dunnelly. Yet this war has made peace. In voena veritas. Ab chaos lex neat where. O Bella, O Pia, O Pura, Amen. Hand-walled amongst us. Thanks be to Balbus. All the same, you sound it would 'twould clang holish like Hull Hoopin for Christmians. But 'twill cling hellish like Engels Open to Europeans. If you'd sense, hold the sum. So be vigilant. And this patent pooch pantomime of Concoon and Propre went on, Hog and Min, a whole whake your night after Larry's night. Spit and spite on Dora O'Huggins, Ormond Court Butler, the artillery of the O'Hefferns answering the cavalry of MacLeod's, 40 and more 40, 1,001 times, according to your cock and biddy story. Ludi Longi for years and years perhaps? That's right. This is his Lagos life. This is me, Tim Tom Tum, and this is her two peak weenie ones. From the last finger on the second foot of the fourth man to the first one on the last of the first. That's right. Finny! Very, very finny! It may look funny, but fair it is.
This is not Good enough, Mr. Brass Layton, fingering and tonguing and winging and ponging, and all your rally and ramp and rant. Did get think I was asleep at the wheel? Didn't you mean to tall grand jurors and Thathans and Thractic on your oath, me lad, and ask us to believe you for your all enduring long terms, which your last foot foremost, that your moon was shining on the tours and on the crescents and wind blowing night after night for years and years, perhaps after you swearing to it a while back before your course examiner, Mark Walther, that there has read in plenty all the team? Perhaps so, as your grand duly affirm, Rob Man Calvinic. I never thought over it. Faith, I most certainly think so about it. I hope, unless it's actionable. It would be a charity for me to think about something which I must on no cast accounts omit, if you ask to me. It was told me I was as an inspired statement by a friend of myself in reply to salute Terape after 3 o'clock mass with 40 ducks indulgent that some rain was promised to Mrs. Lyons, the invalid of Aunt Tardy Villa, with lots gulp in sources, and likewise he told me the res- the rescursant, after telling mass with 200 gen- genuflexins at the split hour of blight, when bars are keeping so sly, as was what follows. He is doing a walk, she says, in the Film Mix Park, says he, like a terrible Turk, says she, letting loose on this nursery, and, begala, he meet himself with Mr. Michael Clary on a Tuesday, who said Father McGregor was desperate to the bad place about balls and ejaculating about all the steroids and the cat pews, swashing his earwanker, and then convenience, being locked up for months, owing to being putrin, putrinized by stragglers abusing the apparatus, and for Tarpe to pull himself into his soup and fish, and to push on his Barrow's loner, and to go to the temple like grease line and see Father McGregor, and becad, sir, he was to pipe up the salute that clergyman, and to tell his holiness the whole goat's throat about the 3 shillings in the confusional, and to all how Mrs. Lyons, the cup tosser, was the infidel who prophesied to pose 3 shillings Peter's pelf off her toucher from Paraguay's and Albs by the yard of Mr. Martin Clary for Father Matthew to put up at midnight mass saints within's of a Thursday for African man, and to let brown child do, and to leave an loan, and all the nuances committed to soul dance and non-behaviors and misbelovers and NDD L Ecluse, to send more hee-haw hell's flutes my progger again, and I never brought my cads and togs blanket. Fua, angly as arrows, but you have right, my Couchslinger, Nils, Mung, and Cannot. Should brothers be for all then? So let us off be oct while oil, bike, and bill and wheel wag till wobbling befoul you, but mere and mere turripoles, turloops will never mate a game of the Bibby Bobby Burns of. Quash! What hill are ye flucking about, ye lamb-looking fots? I'll discipline ye. Will you swear or affirm the day to your second sight? No, and recant that all your affirmed and professed at first sight for the Southie accent was all patty flattery? Will ye or nay? I say, I say I. I affirm, swear to it that it ruly and coolly, bully hooly was with the holy Hagonius lips continuously poised upon the rubricated annuals of St. Ulstar. That's very guid of ye, R.C. Maybe ye wouldn't mind telling us by Labro's lad how very much bright cabbage or pampering paperming comfits do you draw for all your swearing? The Spanglers, Kitty. Rutha Prutha, there you have him. There you have me. Varying nothing. Oh, potatoes, I call it, for I might as well tell your es- sexily, and I am not swallowing my air. The Golden Bridge is truth. It amounts to nada in pounds or pence, not a glass of Lucan, nor as much as the cost price of the Highlanders men's trouser tee or the 3 crowns round the drape hole. Isn't it dram disgusting from the whole dumb plodding thing? Come now, Johnny, we weren't born yesterday. Pro tanto quid retribumus. I ask you to say to your Scotty pigtail you were promised fine times with some stagger juice and dead horse on strip or in larges at the Raven and Sugarloaf, either Jones's Lane or James's Gate, anyhow. Bushmila, do you think for a moment? Yes, by the way. How very necessarily true. Give me fair play. When? At the Dove and Raven Tavern, no I. Ah, to wit your wizard, to wit your wizened. Water, water, darty water, up Jubilee sod, beat peat wheat treat. What harm wants but demands it? How would you like to hear your right name now? Gaz Gazi Power, my thirsty minstrel, if you're not freckened or Frank Comet, not affrighted by Frank anybody's gas power or ill-conditioned ulcers neither. Your uncles, your gullet. Will you repeat that to me outside Lenconamons after you've shouted a few? I will when it suits me, hustler. Guide. We make fight 3-1. Ratty, but no. For example, em, Emanara, Emania Ra, Rafaru, Emania Rafaru. What do you have? What mean you? August 1, fair play for Phineas. I will have my humors. Sure, you would not do the cowardly thing and maul me roan? Tell Queen's Road I am a ceiling. Farewell, but whenever. Bye.
If I choose to put a bullet in you through the grill for heckling, what business is that of yours, you bullock? I don't know, sir. Don't ask me, you honour. Gently, gently, Northern Ire. Love that red hand. Let me once more. There are sordidly tales within tales. You clearly understand that. Now, my other point. Did you know, whether by melanodactylism or purely libationally, that one of these two Crimeans with the fender, the taller man, was accused of a certain offence or of a choice of two serious charges, as skirts were divided on the subject, if you like it better that way? You did, you rogue, you? You hear things. Beside, and serially now, bushes have eyes, don't forget. Which moral turpitude would you select before the two? The choice if you had your way. Playing bull before she-bears, or the hind legs off a clothes horse? Did any orange peelers or green goaters appear periodically up your sylvan family tree? Bug it if I know. It all depends on how much family silver you want for a nascent pair. Ha! What do you mean, sir, behind your ha? You don't ha to do that, snapograph. Nothing, sir, only a bone moving into place. Blotogaff. What? Are you to have all the pleasure quizzing on me? I didn't say it aloud, sir. I have something inside of me talking to myself. You're a nice third-degree witness, Faith, but this is no laughing matter. Do you think we are tone-deafs in our noses to boot? Can you not distinguish the sense prain from the sound bray? You have homosexual cathes of empathy between narcissism of the expert and statobjigic invertedness. Get yourself psychoanalyzed. Oh, I want no expert nurse's sympathy from yours, Brune's quadroons, and I can psychoanalyse myself any time I want, the fog follow you all, without your interferences or any other pigeon stealer.
Sample. Have you ever reflected, we put to that the evil what through it was wielded might nevertheless lead somehow on the good toward the generality, the pow of Haster meets Waster and talking to plebiscites by the show of hands, whether declaratory or effective. In all seriousness, has it become to dawn in you yet that the dependent, the man from St. Yves, may have been, one is reluctant to use the passive voice, may have been as much sinned against as sinning? For if we look at it verbally, perhaps there is no true noun in active nature wherever Bali being. Please read this muff too. Is becoming in this own town eyeballs. Now the long form and strong form and reform altogether. Hotchkiss, Coulter's every ready, one brother to never reached, well over countless heads, sire of many winners and losers, groomed by S. Sampson and Son, bred by Delilahs, all stand at bay, Dublin, from nun till dawn to Dan, inviters inversion, and at Miss and Mrs. McManigan's yard. Perhaps you can explain, Sagobine, the mod needs a rebus. Pro general continuation and the peculiar explanation to your singular interrogation or asseveration. Lad Ladigant, pals will smile, but me and Frisky Shorty, my inmate friend, is an uncommon struck on popular poetry, and a few flee besides round at West Popper Bosquet. Bosquet was glad to be back again with the chaps and just arguing friendly like in the Duder Can Ease house, having a wee chatty with our hostie and his comfy estably over the old Middlesex party and his moral turrups, meaning flu, pock, pox, and measles, gripe, gleet, and spruce, carries, rabbies, nums, and dumps. What me and Frisky and our consensus and the whole double gig screw and the subscribers, not to say the Burman, having successfully concluded on tour of uh, Bibble wants to know is this a here? Supposing, for an ethical fict, him, with the findings showed, to have taken his Epstein license before the Norsense divisional, respectively, as regards their male privates, and our concomitancy, concomitantly, with all common and neuter respects, to them public excuses females, whereas albeit really sweet fillies, as was very properly held by the Politan in connection with this regrettably nuanced, touching arbitrary conduct, being in strict contravention of schedule and board of forest and works bylaws, regulations, sparkers and suckers, amusement section, and our beloved nature park, and pursuance of which police uh, agents, me and Shorty have approached a reverend gentleman of the name of Mr. Coppinger, with reference to the piece of fire fitting as was most obliging, upon my Sam, in this matter of his explanations affirmative, negative, and limitive, given to me and Shorty, touching what the good book says, the Tool Daisy Band, concerning the merits of early Biscal Tollism, besides him citing from approved uh, lectionary example given by the valued friend of the name of Mr. J. P. Cockshot, uh, reticent of England, as owns a pretty Mason net, quest ut duis fronting from the Sussex Bluffs, as was telling us categoric how Mr. Cockshot, uh, as he had his assign and as nation with present holder by deep pool and indenture of the swearing belt. He tells him hypothetic that Reverend Mr. Coppinger, uh, Hirakins himself disjunctively with the windward eye up the dozen miles of the Kerner Farm School of Hearing, passing themselves supernaturally by the Blotternais from 12 of them and them, may riding him by the silent hour. Butting, charging, bracing, backing, springing, shrinking, swaying, darting, shooting, bucking, and sprinkling their dossies so duckish shock with the twinks of the towels. And reverend, he says, somewhat problematic, by yon socialist son. Got me, but them earrings was a gladful as whiskey keepers could be considering, flipping their little copingers bottom, the fresh little flirters, the dirty little brighteners, pickle them spratties, the little smulty galllockers, and Reverend, says he, more Ascententoff, Zwelf me Zeus, says he, let an Olfec be the tank of the superficies, laming the curves of their scalgerants, and past the ever-urge flosity of their pectoralium, them little salty populators, says he, most apodictic. Uh, as sure as my brain eggs is on cockshot under news, all them little up and down dippies, they was all of a libedious pick-puck party and raid on a Rigolo Finsky Duda and testimonies to their early Bishan cultism. Such, he says, is how the Reverend Copinger his visualises the hidebound homilies of Creed Crux ethics. Watch yourself tick tactically every morning in your Braxoli twilight. And use the cold water, testifies Dr. Ruddy, may be warmly recommended for the subjugation of Congolitus loosed Tulu schools.
Tell hell and Barbados were ye, and ye Aryan corpulation, Pelagiarist, remonstrant Montgomeryite, short lives to your relatives. Wow. Yar absex, so yar, with Macroglosia and Mick Rusey Philix. Wait now, leaks lip. I sent ego archism. I will take you to task. I don't follow you that far in your otherwise accurate account. Was it Esox Lucius or Selmo Firax? You are taxing us into the driven future, are you not, with this ruddy-made fishery? Lalia, Lilia, Lilia, Lulia, and lively, lovely Lola Montez. Gubernethor. That, they say, is a Fenian on the secret, named Parasol Ireli, spawning over and fry like a merry monarch, all a many go round with his 7 parish churches, and peopling the ribald baronies with Dans, Oges, and Connells. Lift it now, hostie. Humps your mark for a Runnymede landing. A Dondering Vesh Vish, Magnam Carpan, S Hit Neat Zoo. There's an old psalm-sobbing lax salmoner, fogey-boren heron plound house, who went floundering with his boatloads of sperm and spunk about. Wow. Leaping freck after every long tom and wet lissy between houth and humber mouth. Our human conger eel.
That's great.
Oh, hep. I can see him in the fishnu. Up wi' your whippy. Hold that lad. Play him, Markendine. Bullhead. Pull you, sir. Olive Quill does it. Long eel of Malin. He'll cry before he's flayed, and his tear make newest land. Did he rise? Way, Lungfush. The great Finn may cumul. Three threeth o'er the wild. Manu ware. He missed her mouth and stood into D, Remunculus Remus, plying the rape. So is now any bompress bound to get up her if he pull her leg and bunk on her butt. No. He skid like a skate and birthed on her Bernie, and never a fear but they'll land him yet. Slithery scales on Liffey Bank, times and half a time with a pillow of sand to polster him. Do you say they will? I bet you they will. Among the shivering sedges so, weedy waving, our tulip beds of rush below, where you take your mugs to wash after dark, to my lead, Toomey Lout, Tommy lad, beside the bubbly waters of bubbly waters of, right, grenadiers, and tell me now, were these anglers or angelers coexistent and compresent with or without their tertium quid? 3 in 1, 1 in 3, Shem and Sean and the shame that sunders them, wisdom's son, folly's brother. God bless your ginger, wiggle waggle. That's 3 slots and no burners. You're forgetting the Ginny Joss for the Fay boys. What, Walker John referent? Play us your Patmost and unpack your loops. Naif Krukaran, woe on woe, says Wardeb Daily. Women will water the wild world over, and the maid of the folly will go where glory. Sure, I thought it was larking in the trefoil of the furry glands with true stripping bear maids, Stilla Underwood and Moth McGarry. He was, hand to dagger, that time and their mother a raw-knee pudsfrau. I was given to understand, with superfluvious airs begun. There was that one that was always mad gone on him, her first king of clothes and the first most broadcast man in Corrick-on-Sharon, County Roscarman. Sure, she was near drowned in ponderous cold streams of admiration for herself, as bad as my Tarpeian cousin, Vesta Tully, making faces at her Bach-spilled likeness in the brook after and cooling herself in the element, she pleasing it, she praising it, with Salices and Weedo Wells, all tossed as she was, the play actress, Lauf Sheeling's love. Oh, add Sheel some bride little, all of her own. Nursey sissies are as the doters of inversion. Cecilia's through their laughing classes are becoming pooler mates in Laker life. It seems to same with Iscabellas. Yes, go tell us, a ticky for tight talks. Listenest, me meanest, they were harrowed, these fine finweeds. Come, rest in this bosom. So sorry you lost him, poor lamb. Of course I know you were a very wicked girl to go in the dream place, and at that time of the dream it was a very wrong thing to do, even under the dark flush of night. Dear old Grand Passier. He's gone on his bombashore, through geesing and so pleasing at strip-teasy up the stairs. The boys in the corner were talking too, and your sorrowful miseries first come on you. Still to forgive it, divine my little whiffy, and everybody knows you do look lovely in your invincibles, eulogia, a perfect apposition with the cold cream assolutia from Bolliou's I always use in the wards after I'm burned a rich egg and derive the greatest benefit, sign of the cause. Ah, you do. Simply adorable. Could I but pass my hands on some, my hands through thine hair? So Vicky Veritani. So Frances, say howdy do, Dotty. Chic hands. The way they curve there under new charmine cuffs. I am more divine like that when I've 2 of everything up to boy-proof nicks. Winning in a way, only my arms are whiter, dear. Blanchemain, idler. Fair hair, frail one. Listen, meme, sweetie. Oh, be joyfold. Mirror do justice, taper of ivory, heart of the convent, hoops of gold. My veil will save it undying from his eternal fire. It's meanly us 2, meme idol. Of course it was downright very wicked of him, really meeting me disguised, Bortolo mio, perfectly appealing DV, with my lovebirds, my columbinas. Their sensitive shrinked. Even Netta and Linda, our CU titties, and they've sinned some Tim Tankus. My rillies were Libanos, my accents ombra. How me adores eats other simply, Mon Aishabo, Ma Raina Bell, in his storm collar as I leaned yestreen from his musky shed labs. Even my little Pom got excited when I turned his head on the same manly bust and kissed him more. Only he might speak to a person, Lord so Specious, taking up my worth's ill wrong. May I introduce? This is my futuous, lips and looks love last. Still me with you, you poor chilled. We'll make it up with Mother Concepcion and a glorious lie between us, sweetness, so as not a novene in all the convent Lorettos, not my litterest one of all, for mercy's sake need never know what passed our lips o'er. Yes, sir, we'll will. Clothier wind, Fio fi, covius nice, banch the dread, a litton's looking, lo him lovely, make me feel good in the moontime. It will all make Bloss as orange as St. Audien's Rosen chocolate chapelry with my diamonds blick feast after it min owned hose for all the cat club to go crazy and Father Blesius Mendelssohn will be beminding hand. Curil elation, Christial elation, Curil elation, elation in minds. Sing to us, sing to us, sing to us, amen. So meme nearest languished Hister, be free to me. I'm fading. And listen, you beauty, Esther. I'll be a clue to who knows you. Pray Magda Martha with lutes and Joan, while I lie with warm lisp of the Tulka. I'm Fay. Eusapia, face lay to Tate, languishing hysteria, the clow historique. How is this at all? Is dad's the thing in such, or are tits the that? Here, here we hear with her first pose proem of Suora unto Suora. Alicious twin streams twine strains through alluring glass or alas in jumbo land. Ding dong! Where's your pal in silks a luster? Think of a maiden presentation. Double her anupsication. Take your first thoughts away from her immaculation. Knock and it shall appall unto you. Who shone yet shimmers will be air skeening. Cluse her, voil her, hild her hindley, after lyric and themodious soft aglo iris of the vowels. This young bar lady, what, euphemazily? Is she having an ambidual act herself in apparition with herself as consuelers to Sonia's May?
Dang, and teether a long guy. Oh, this and that and dents and dose. You're crackling out of your turn, my moonster firefly, like always. And two RN and Longhorns connect. Stay off my air. You're grabble. You've grabbed the capital and you've had the lion's shire since 1542. But there's all the difference in Ireland between the Bordation, my chatty cove, and me. The lynch the Leinstry boy to the wall is gone, and there's Maureen Ost- Osterine, Osterine for Moon and Coon in Con. With the tykes named Mook, Doggy Men's Nimmer Win. You last led the first win, we last, but will first trump your last with the lasting. Jump the rail chairs or take them as you please. But, and, sir, my Quexkins first, Foxy Jack. Ye've as much scullabog cheek in you now on you now as would boil a cauldron of calibros. Did the market missionaries Hayden Wombwell, when given the raspberry, find more than Sandstein percent for of chalk in the purity? Promptitude and perfection flower of this raw materialist and less than a seventh pro mile in his meal? We bright young chaps of the brand new brain trust are briefed here with the maternal sanction compellibly impaneled at quarter sessions under the six disqualifications of the uniformication of young persons, nodding neutrals, removal act of communal common number under 15 to know had the purists of generals who have been getting nose money cheap in stirring up the public opinion about private balls with their legs, Mrs. Murtha and Mary, the two. I'm sorry. The private balls. the two Dreepers' assistants that have their service book in order and duly signed J.H. North and Company. Uh, when discharged from their last situations, will you gup and tell the board in the atrium how, in the name of three tailors on Tooley Street, did O. Bidgersumson and Mock Nautish, ex of Butt and Hogsets, violating the bushel standard, come into awful position of the barrel and belly wash? And why is it any harm to ask with was his hackney man and the combi, uh, sailor with the white luke of him, faux Fitz Horison, collecting from Manosphere, carrying his arc of egg-shaped fuselage and made in Fredborg into the Bulgine across his back when he might have been setting on his Jonas inside like a Glastron cabman? Where were the doughboys? Three by Nombres, one in Zvile, Cave Hill Exers of Heart of Steel, Hansen, Morfried, and O'Dyer, VD with the Glen Garaeus, directing their steps according to the RUC's liaison officer, with their trench ulcers open and their hands in their pockets, contrary to military rule, when confronted with the life size obstruction? When did he live off rooking the poor, and how did start preferring at his Patterson and Helicots? Is it a factual fact proved up to Scab's Steeth Schilt that his fancy dress, Nordic in shaved lamb breeches, child's kilts, bibbing bunting and Wellingtons with club torque and headdress, pre-holder of the bar Ptolemy, his co-owner of Hengrester's Circus near North Great Denmark Street, identically. It's the most enjoyable show going to province, and I'm taking the youngsters there Saturday first when it's half price naturals night to see the fallen sickers aping the bulky backers in the blind of two worlds taking off their Deafy Down dummies. And the Sham Shim showman has been complaining to the police barracks and applying for the order of certiorari and carrying on something vile about him being molested after him having triplets by offers of vacancies from females in the city's knighting after the man and his outstanding attraction ever since they seen his X-ray picture turn out in wealthy red in the Sabbath sheets. Was it him that stubborn the Surdom mutual son of his, the literary disturber in St. Patrick's lavatory, to turn a Roman and leave the cherry and gout in his bare ball brigands and sweep and buy the usual jar of porters and morgue and curses and set it down before the wife with her fireman's helmet on her, bidding her mind and whose the strumpet, while him and his Langan lovers were ramping the roads and all their paraply under the noses of Helo Helopolitian constabulary. Can you beat it? Prepare the way. Where's the Gandrem auxiliary? Our aeronautic aeronautic sapultary that reported on the whole hoodlum, replying with his Morse air woody book and the trunnic up his tail? Ruth Sexine Vanderdekel and get her story from him. Recall Sickerson, the Lizzie boy, Sickerson Magon of Eric, Sackerson, hook up. Day shrinker for van floats, he Vanden's market. High liquor maid, less torpid, dough hunt her orchid. Gob, and he found it on her right enough. With her shoes upon his shoulders, 'twas most trying to beholders when he up their frula tula pleats, uh, with our warning, a disgrace to the homely Protestant religion. Bloody old pre-Adamite with his two-handled umbrella. Trust me to spy on our own. Trust me to spy on me own spew. Wall purges. And there's this our defied city, Norganson, and its wheeze to pry for big messers conversions. Call Kitty the Beads, the man dame and Tipknock Castle. Let Scuba succumb, the improbable his wealth made possible. He's he's cooking Hagar the roast her prayer to him upon the top of the stairs. She's deep, that one, a fart noiser of his Turkish armides, or former who erred is having down the gibbous disgag, our darling breed, and then the confissurer for the boobs delusions, del, del, indulgence, as sanctioned by his for his Salmenbog by the consular's arm Trent, pave Penem at his gaiter's bronze. Number half dreads long lafty. Master's gun, he wars the best. I messaged his deltoids, saucepanders, muscles, and the kitchen table. With my ironing ducked through his roll pins and gains fit, doughy dough, till he was brazen red and the toast face with lovin' soft eye bulbs, and his kittle drum steaming and ratting like the roasties in my maca mill. I awed and have scorched his Abram's brack for him, for the loaf of Obadiah. For the loaf of Obadiah, take your pastorite arts noise out of me, Flora Bouquet. Of the stranger scene, you give squeezers to me skillet. As cream of the hearth thou rates all home. His lapper and lippers was glue galled as he sizzled there, watching me Loderic's pitcher of Wexford Ulterior as caddy and lanner, the refined soubrette with all bust a la bruche, and the pad bun under my matelot, showing my gigaudy sleeves and all my new Tolong Toulouse. Whisk! There's me shims, and here's me hams, and this in me drippets. Gauze be the meter. Whisk! What's this? Whisk! And that. Have never coached finer, bally me at Romeolo Ferlini's flea pantomime out of griddle the sink, or shushies with her soles up, or la Cerzorili in puka boots when I started, so hob mop, ladle like, hidy tidy, to kick the time off the cluck clock, luck lock, quam, cam, pot a pot, pan, kick a kick, cack, hair whorehounds, shake up perfonter, fuddling fun for Folican's sake.
All halt. Sponsor program and close down. That's enough, General, of finicking about Finnegan and fiddling with his faddles. If I'm a ballot governor to remove all doubt. By Sylph and Salamander and all the trolls and tritons, I mean to top her drive and to tip the tap of this at last. His thoughts that would be words, his livings that have been deeds, and will too by the holy child of Cool, prima patriarch of the Archsea, if I have at first to down every mask in Transylvania, from Terry's hole to Stutterer's corner, to find that yoke off his letter, this yoke and his dahat, past the Jousters of the King, the Kovner Journal, and Ironarch's Custos himself, no less, the Meg of Megs, with the Carison old gang. Off with your Persians, search ye the Finn, the cinders under shriving sheet. Fa, fee, fi, fo, fum. Ho, croak, evildoer. Arise, Sir Ghostus. As long as you've lived there, there'll be no other. Doff.
I thought the bug porn was bad.
He's going in deep this time. Lots of.
Gosh.
He has a turn of phrase, doesn't he? He really knows how to slip in the thing that's the inside voice.
I was like, oh no.
But, fairly shameless and very happy to do it. And it's obviously necessary to his art. So
that was section 3 of chapter 3.
3. Yep, that's it.
We have often talked about how dirty Joyce actually is.
Yeah.
And this time, he's like, hey, freak flag. Just let it all hang out. Because for a while there, at first I was like, I can't be understanding this the way I think I'm understanding. First off, any company called Hostages & Co. is brilliant. But like after that long section I read, I was like, is he basically being like, yeah, I talked to the priest about it, and the priest is just like, go take a cold shower, you horny little man. And then they're like, that's not enough. And then they go into more detail. And I was like, oh, when the word spunk shows up, it's almost, undeniable what it is.
Well, the line being, who went floundering with his boatloads of sperm and spunk about?
It's too good.
Yeah. Boatloads. Yeah, that's...
Boatloads.
Got lots of... Yeah. I think if anyone offends you at any time in the future, telling them short lives to your relatives.
Short, that is so good. I hope they
So
all
savage.
die.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so good.
Yeah.
And it's been a while since I read a section where there's no periods, and I was like, Jesus Christ, I just want to breathe.
Yeah, it's kind of fun though to get on that momentum train and just sort of allow
It
it
is.
to go.
It is. This was. I felt like this is probably the most I've been able to like wrap my head around stuff. I tell you, dirty jokes bring me in, but just like all around, that's my anchor.
Yeah, that's your skeleton key. You need that.
Yeah.
Do you find that when you're not reading and then you kind of glance away from the page for a second, then do you get into that panic phase of being like, where I can't, and like like trying to find where the other reader is on the page?
Oh, 100%. Because I saw that I was reading and I saw that you had to stand up and go somewhere, and I was like, oh, good luck.
Yeah. I came straight from the gym, and so I needed to use the washroom, and so I was like, well, TJ's got 2.5 pages, so I'll be back in really quick, and I didn't miss much, but yeah, then it's the panic of going, I've got to find where you're at, and it's not like any other book where you can just look for keywords because there's so many keywords.
There's so many words that you're like, I have no idea what this is.
Yeah.
And, I think that I found that I got really good at it, especially early on when I'd be like, I want to underline or circle this section. And I'd have to be like, oh, wait, he's already like 4 sentences away. And so I got really good at finding a big word further down than I know that you are and just waiting for you to hit that.
Right. Yeah. Playing catch up.
It is panic, though.
Yeah, particularly since you worry that... I mean, I know that the worst thing that could happen would be that you would finish your section and then you would look at me and go, it's you. And I go, oh, okay. And then I'd cut it out in the edit. But, it's still that...
It's momentum.
Yeah.
It's funny because actually maintenance just walked into the apartment halfway through that, and I was like, he walked out right before I started reading again for that last section, and I was like, he's gonna be like, what the hell? As I mentioned, what her shoes over his shoulders, I was like, golly, sir, up here reading porn on a Wednesday morning.
Maybe he'd give you a discount. It's my favorite reference to HCE showed up in this section here. How quite often you'll see the HCE be used for other things, and we have a few of them Hotchkiss cultures ever ready, and so there's a few bits and pieces like that show up. But on page 525, just after the sperm and spunk, to refer to this filthy HCE as our human conger eel. It really it feels very decorative about what they all think of HCE. Poor guy, he can't catch a break. He just...
Well, okay, I love how a couple episodes ago we were reading and they were like, oh yeah, he defecated in the park. I'm like, that's not all he did. That's not all he did in this park. That's not all he did. Like, just tell the truth, shame the devil. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this HCE, I mean, I guess he has all that's coming. He gets all that's coming to him, but you feel bad for the guy.
Yeah, I do. And also, part of me is like, different times, but I highlighted make me feel good in the moon time. I was like, that's great.
There's the tattoo.
Yeah, make me feel good in the moon time.
Yeah. I was a bit sad. I didn't extend it because, well, there's integrity in this podcast. We take things very seriously. No, I was a bit sad that we finished one page shy of page 533 in chapter 3.
Oh, we would have had another 3.
So we finished at 532. So next episode we'll hit 533, which won't mean anything, but we came close. We came close to really sort of making the numerologists happy with our master number, but not this time around.
He missed her mouth instead. Just sir.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well, there was no Pornhub in 1924, so
there was not. This was it.
So Joyce is just like, I'm going to write it down so I can picture it all in my mind. Who knows who HCE would be if he had a phone? Yeah,
racking up them 1-900 numbers. If I excuse to put a bullet like you're through the grill for heckling, what business is that of yours, you bullet? If I shoot you, what's that got to do with you?
Yeah.
I didn't say it out loud, sir. I have something inside of me talking to myself.
Yeah, that feels really. That's what do you give me that stink eye for? Well, it's not me. Something inside of me is talking to myself.
Also, I love the fact that right after that, it's pretty much it's a you gay bro joke. You have homosexual Cathys of empathy between narcissism and you love yourself.
Yeah,
you love yourself so much you gay. Get yourself psychoanalyzed.
Yeah, which meant a lot more then than it does now, right? I mean, the idea. I mean, this is the dawn of the first 2 decades of the 20th century. The idea of psychoanalysis meant a whole different thing to what.
Oh yeah, like now. You are messed up.
Yeah. And I mean, even going into the 50s and 60s, it was still seen as something only for crazy people. But now it's so regular, everyone does it. So the idea that go lie on a couch because you're crazy.
Also, as a gay man, I love a gay joke in my modernist literature.
Yes. So I know that we got a lot more of the sense of that chapter, but I'll just go into what the Oxford World Classic summarizes each of those sections as read, following the line and page numbering convention standard as text. So we read Book 3, Chapter 3, pages 516 to 532. Yawn, an inquiry run as a seance by Senators 4 into the various events so far narrated, especially the Humphrey out of Book 1. Sean, now Yawn, is the star witness, ventriloquizing or channeling the chapters who appear one by one, which HCE as a philanthropic urban planner dominated the last 20 pages. Now, that's in the end of this chapter, which we haven't got to yet. So HCE doesn't quite appear. That'll be in the next episode. So from 5:16:23 to 5:19:15, one senator, possibly Mark, asks again about the funeral games and the struggle as described on 81-5. Then at 5:19, Senator Matthew takes over with the interrogation. At 5:20, a rambling tangential tale is told, and at 5:21, the session gets heated. At 5:22, Mark, it seems, returns but makes little headway. At 5:23 to 4, we have a witness statement from a friend of Frisky, see 39 above. I'm not sure what that reference is to, about HCE and Coppinger. On 525, there's a fishy and sexualized version of events. No kidding. 526.20 to 528.24, queries about Issy are raised, followed by Issy's evidence and a confused response from Mark. 528.25 to 531.26, Matthew takes charge, calls Sackerson, and then Kate to the stand. 531.27 to 532.5, enough, call up HCE.
Word.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't think that gives us literally anything at all.
No, I mean, a lot of it's like everyone's like, he's doing nasty stuff, and now they're finally like, hey, come answer for yourself. Like, are you actually doing, like,
yeah, I mean, that,
what proof do you have? I saw her legs above his shoulders. Like,
right.
okay.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
it is all hearsay.
yeah, sort of back to that the sort of the court case, the trial, Festy King stuff from book one. Very much that kind of interrogation, but the idea that Sean is ventriloquizing and channeling these characters, so he's talking to himself and arguing back and forth, would be very, very. I mean, wouldn't that be an interesting thing to stage in terms of having the one man show of the Yawn chapter, of someone performing that, but finding all those different kinds of characters.
Oh, yeah.
No one would watch it. I mean,
I mean, so little, this, you don't even know this. The thing that really got me into Shakespeare, right, and made me be like, oh, there's something here, was I saw this production, and I cannot remember the name of the group, and they came to my high school, and it was like 5 people, and they're like, we're doing all of insert. I can't even remember what play they did,
right.
But there was a section where one guy was himself, and he played 3 different characters in the same scene, and I was like, this is great.
Right.
I'm here for all of it. And like, it also unlocked like a different level of theatricality and stuff. Like, if I could see one person, maybe 2 people playing all these parts going back and forth, and I think it would be an absolute riot, especially with the depth of the sexual innuendo. Or it's not innuendo, it's explicit. But I think that'd be a lot of fun for have one character say something nasty, and then them have to react to it themselves and be like, "Oh, how dare you! May all your relatives die shortly." Like things like that. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I wonder if it could be like a Marat Sard setting,
Oh yeah.
Where he's got his straight jacket on and he's sitting in a tiled room having this conversation back and forth.
Somehow the straitjacket becomes a coat, that he could.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. And the thing is, reading it, it's very, very easy to forget that this is Sean and doing this seance or being channeled, because we've got these Senators 4, which obviously refer back to the 4 old men from the Tristan and Isolde chapter, and the 4 old men, which represent the 4 points of Ireland, 4 corners of Ireland, and things like that. And then Mama Lujo, which Senator Matthew, Senator Marks, obviously Mama Lujo are these 4 men as well. So there's obviously these themes that are coming back, but in terms of how we receive them as readers, it's keeping that the setting foremost in your brain. I don't think if you read it quietly to yourself, you would take on that seance concept,
right?
Or at least it would be extremely easy to miss. It's probably a reference somewhere early on that we skipped right past, that this scholar who wrote this summary knows all about. But it's in some ways disheartening to know that in order to crack the meaning of a section like this, it requires scholarship, or it requires that kind of insight. And maybe we should have read some of these background texts that open it up for you, but then we'd be like all the other Finnegans Wake reading groups, and I don't want to
think it's more fun for us to just go in.
It is.
Like,
remember, never forget that group in California that took 28 years to read this book once. Never forget. Never forget.
Hey,
pour one out for them.
I'm your friend for life. We ain't spending 28 years on nothing.
Well, we can spend 28 years doing lots of different things. And we got
one thing for 28 years. I'd be like, Toby, we gotta hang it up. But I will say that this has kind of set up this expectation of like, for the first time in approaching this book, I've been like, what the hell does HCE have to say for himself, and how's he going to get himself out of this one? Because
Yeah.
like, bruh, there's some they talking about the quantity of your seminal fluid. I do not like that is some very visceral firsthand knowledge.
Right. Yes. And so yes. So the next section is actually quite. I mean, HCE does speak for himself, and our next episode, our guest for the next episode, specifically requested this next section.
Bless
Reached
him.
out to us on Instagram from Australia. Reached out and said, "I love the podcast. Would love to be on. Can I please read the Haveth Childers Everywhere section, which is the next section of this book?" So I'm like, sure, absolutely. If this means something to you, then by all means. So our next guest will be talking about that and getting us into what HC has to say.
What you guys say for yourself,
Yeah.
homie?
But next couple of guests we have are purists.
Nah, it's fine.
It's fine, yeah. We got.
I'm not scared anymore.
Yeah. We don't care about the purists because we're so close to the end. I was really worried about getting disheartened by the purists 90 pages in and then being like, oh, I guess we won't continue because everyone hates it. But everyone's very positive, continues and remains positive. And we had that great conversation with Sarah, who's done Bloomsday. We had that great conversation with Anna, who's also done Bloomsday and read in all sorts of different languages. And Neil keeps coming back. And we've got all these purists who are on our team. So we are fortified. In fact, I would say that we're almost becoming purists ourselves in that we're saying the purity of Finnegans Wake is in its reading, and you can read it any way you want. We need to crack this open. I remember coming to a moment when I was writing my dissertation. I came to this moment of realization when I cracked the whole thing open, because dissertation was all about adaptation of Shakespeare in performance, and I had a line from a 17th century adaptation of Richard III, which was, "How now, Catesby, hast thou been tampering?" Which was, I was like, this is a really interesting line, "hast thou been tampering," which isn't Shakespeare, but it's Colley Cibber, and I was like, tampering. Adaptation, people treat adaptation like it's tampering, like it's messing with something, like it's breaking. And I spent all my time fighting back against this thing about, is it tampering? Is it tampering? And then I had this realization and I went, oh, actually, the response to "hast thou been tampering" is no, I haven't been tampering. Tampering is a negative connotation. I've actually been doing something necessary to keep this play alive and
100%.
And it's not adaptation is not a swear word. It is not something where you can say, oh, it's not as good as the book, because it's a different thing. And so I think the purists may come and say, well, this is an academic approach to Finnegans Wake, at which point I would say, great, because that's not what we set out to do. But if you said to Joyce, there's only one way to read Finnegans Wake, he would cry, I think. I think he would say, everyone should try to read it and take from it what you want. And that's and if we have a purist in here who wants to look down their nose at us, first of all, I'm not sure.
You made it 33 episodes, so you should have turned around a while ago.
Clearly, I'm like, have you listened to any of it? Because we just point out all the dick jokes. But yeah, I think we're purists of a different kind. Maybe we're neo purists.
I'm kind of with you. I'm a huge fan of adaptation, and I think that the things that attract me to adaptation is like when we worked on Inseparables, we're like, no one knows what the Three Musketeers actually is, right? And so I was like, I'm gonna make an adaptation of this, but like try to stick as closely to the source material as possible, so people are like, oh, that's actually what it is. In the same way that like The People Could Fly is the basis for my play We Fly. It's like, I learned about these African American folk tales when I was a kid, right?
Yeah.
But if you ask my nieces and nephews and like one generation removed about them, they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, if anything, it gets people curious and going back to the source and be like, wait, this is based on this. Let me go find the thing, right? Same thing with the Moby Dick thing. When I read Moby Dick, I was like, I see why this is really hard to adapt, because Ishmael is not a very active narrator. Like, he does next to nothing. He's just an observer, which in book form works excellent. It's really hard to do on stage in a way that's compelling.
Yeah.
And so, but the hope is that people are like, oh, there's hints. I was like, of course I take liberties, but there's hints of things that are in the book that you're like, oh, okay. I can lean on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Or when the form changes and the technology shifts and when the expectations change. Because you read some of these 19th century novels And the novel form was brand new, and so they didn't know how to do it. They didn't know how, like you were talking about with Melville, like how do you tell the story? How do you have a narrator who sees everything all the way through to tell us all about it, and being afraid of having this, a narrator who's not actually there but is. So when you read books like Frankenstein or Dracula, both books are, I mean, Dracula's okay. I don't love Frankenstein, but both books, you can see the authors wrestling with the idea of how do I tell
Yeah.
the people about what these people are thinking. I don't know how to. So what they do is so Dracula, with, I don't know if you read it, but it's just all letters. It's all just letters back and forth. Oh, here's a thing that and so it's just a collection of letters,
which is, for all intents and purposes, I mean, Poisonwood Bible's the same way. It's like there's contemporary versions of that, but the first time you do it, it's not going to be great because you're like, I don't know.
But the interesting thing about Dracula, as soon as the adaptations got hold of it, when they went, who cares about the narrator? We're just telling a story, and you can throw out the structure, the frame that's around it, and just go straight into the story that's being told. I don't think anyone would know anything about the letters in Frankenstein and Dracula now, because the story has transcended the form. And so it was the same kind of. So I feel as though us coming to grips with the fact that we are approaching Finnegans Wake in a way that is completely valid, and it adds to the canon. And that message I got from Sarah saying that we gave her the bravery to go and participate in a Finnegans Wake reading group, and she said, let me quote her because it was a lovely message. I think you've positioned yourself really well for a big revival of Finnegans Wake. Yourself and TJ have given me the confidence to turn into a film documentary in Sweeney's Pharmacy and read the opening to Finnegans Wake. And then she was talking about the background behind this documentary that she was talking about. But she said that the take home was that I had always assumed anyone reading or had read Finnegans Wake was and is a purist. It was so lovely to sit together and nobody had a effing clue after many a year reading it aloud. So all the people who were there in the room who come back to this reading group again and again, no one knew what was going on, even though they were reading it over and over again. And even though you have the guides and things like that, it doesn't matter. That's not the point. That's not the point. It's the fact that we have these glorious words. I'm always so impressed that Joyce just forged ahead and continued going. Went 628 pages into.
And he said, it's kind of like what I tell my students whenever they're writing for the first time. They're like, I just want people to like it. I was like, write what you're going to write, and the people who like it are going to find it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it might not fit into the way or the form that you expect it to, but guess what? The people who know what to do with it are going to figure out what to do with it.
Exactly. So we're glad we're here, and we're glad that you're glad we're here, listeners. It's nice to be here and nice to be able to share this with you.
I'm showing Taylor the who went floundering line. He said, what? Yes, it's exactly what you think.
Exactly what you think it is.
So,
we have hit a milestone here. We are now officially have fewer than 100 pages left in Finnegans Wake. Whoever could have thought it?
You know what? When it's you and me, we always finish what we start.
We do. Very glad to say it. All these projects that we've come up against, we always get there. So now I guess we've got to get ready to figure out what the next one is.
Oh, I think it's a podcast about adaptation, done and dusted.
Yeah. I would love that. We when I was teaching an adaptation course, I was picking sources that had like adaptation strings where you could sort of take the source material and then sort of pull the threads and figure out all the different ways it was adapted. And so going, well, like say you take something like Watchmen, and Watchmen starting out as a comic book, but then obviously Watchmen is an adaptation of the entire DC canon.
Right.
But then it's also its own world, and then it became a pretty bad movie, but then it became a really good HBO miniseries.
And now it's an HBO cartoon.
Yeah, and then you've got the podcast that came off it, and you've got all the the way that that things are adapted. So and Romeo and Juliet is obviously a big one. Most of Shakespeare, that things
So
are
the
adapted.
adaptation iceberg. That, hey, you know what?
Oh, write that down, quick.
Oh, it's in there. Don't worry.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, let's do it. But the only problem I have with that is it sounds like a podcast that requires some research.
Debatable.
All right, so the no research iceberg, no research adaptation iceberg.
What we do is we set ourselves a time limit. What can you find in 90 minutes?
Or maybe it's live. Maybe you listen to us digging around on the internet live.
Oh, that's crazy.
Click. Oh, what about this? Rabbit hole. The adaptation rabbit hole.
I love it.
It's all good. Well, that is all the time we have this week for Wake. We will return next week to finish up this chapter as we push on into the final 100 pages of the book. I've been Toby Malone, joined as ever by TJ Young. Thank you for being here, TJ. Always a pleasure.
Of course.
And we will see you next week, numerologists and astrologists. This has been Wake, a cold reading of James Joyce's Finnegans Wake, just to hear it out loud. If you've made it this far, thank you for your dedication. Join us next week for another segment of Finnegans Wake and a chat about what we've found. Wake is a Moon Street Media podcast, engineered by TJ Young and Toby Malone. Our theme song is The Ballad of Perso Riley, arranged and performed by Meg Logue after James Joyce. Wake is recorded in Canada, where Finnegans Wake is in the public domain. For community and bonus content, join us at our free Patreon at patreon.com/wakepod. If you have questions about Finnegans Wake, don't ask us. We're just as confused as you are. See you next week.